This is To the Front. Tools for today's top agents.
Episode number 19 of To the Front. Welcome back. Well, we are getting close to 20 episodes. That's an episode a week, 20 weeks. I know a lot of podcasts that will film 4 or 5 episodes and then you'll never hear from them again. And that's not our goal. Our goal is to give you great pieces of information, great tools for your business, for your agency, and they to come out once a week. And I got to tell you, I've got a great guest today. But I want you to hear the top before I bring on my guest. Here's the topic. When good gets better and is heading towards best. I won't say it again. When good gets better and is heading towards best. I forget who told me one time, and I'm probably going to butcher it, but let me make this statement. One time I heard that progress or that good is the enemy of progress, or good enough is the enemy of progress. And maybe you're sitting there in your business, your agency, and it's a pretty good agency. Maybe you're traveling a little bit if you're a captive agent in a company or two, or maybe in your business each year you make a little bit of profit, everybody gets paid, and it's good. And you lay your head on the pillow at night and you're like, I have a good business, or I have a good marriage, or I have a good friendship. This applies to anything. The problem with good is that it gets in the way of your better and definitely stops you from ever being the best you can be. Why is that? Because we are humans and we are built to be complacent. I'm sorry, I said it. If that offends you, it is what it is. We are built to be complacent. But life is worth more than that. It's worth more than checking in and checking out and doing it over and over and over until you die. Life is worth growing and taking your good and making it better and heading towards your best in whatever endeavor you have in life. And specifically, that is in business. So today's episode, I'm going to bring on my friend George Elossais. George, welcome to the podcast. How you doing today?
I'm good. Good. Thanks for having me.
Oh, hey, man. So good to have you. I got to tell the listeners, the watchers, why I've got George on here. George is a team member at a captive agency in Iowa, right? Iowa.
Yep.
Iowa. And George walked into a business that was very good. In fact, if you heard this business's numbers before George got there, you would be like, I would take that all day and twice on Sunday. I know you would, because I see everyone's numbers. But the great thing about George is that George came into this agency, into a very good agency, and started to do some things to make it even better. And I got to tell you, not only are they heading towards better, they're heading to some of the best agencies in the country for this particular company. So George, I met George not too long ago. George, maybe 2-3 weeks ago.
Yeah.
And we had a quick conversation. I said, I got to have George on the podcast to talk to agencies and agents and team members and maybe just general business owners to give you some encouragement to say, man, your good can be better and your better can head towards best. And it was so good that George found a company called Train Well. I asked what his title was, and he said, I don't bind to titles. I just, what'd you say you call yourself? The janitor?
I'm the janitor at Train Well. So.
The janitor, which AKA means the founder, but man, it's helping hundreds of agents and team members do what they do better. And so I'm excited. We're excited to share that as well. But let's get into the topic. George, how did I do on the introduction? Did I do okay?
I think that was great. Yeah, that was good.
Awesome. Awesome, man. Welcome, dude. Tell me a little bit more about you, about how you became a team member, how you arrived at your agent's office. Hey, did you always want to be in insurance? So let's just start there. Tell us about your family, whatever you want to say. Favorite baseball team, maybe since it's basketball season, basketball team if you like basketball.
Well, I'll start with the sports. Not a sports guy at all. I couldn't tell you anything about it. But, I grew up in Cedar Rapids, Iowa. Pretty humble beginnings, but a very, very loving family that was very supportive. So I always grew up around being a business owner. My dad and my uncle had a restaurant, nothing big, but they had a little diner. And that's where I really learned, if you're going to do it, you definitely want to be a business owner. You want to own your own business at some point. Right. So, I always grew up around that. My dad never wanted me in the restaurant. He always said you have to use your brain, not your hands. He wanted me doing something else. And then kind of by luck, when I was 16, I had the idea to work at Sears, like the retail store.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Sears.
Because I just could not wait to have a job when I was young. Like I was like selling random things on eBay when I was younger than that. And I just couldn't wait till I was 16. It could like legally have like a job, start working some hours.
For sure.
And what was interesting about Sears was like, even if you're like part-time, because I was, going there after school and I'm working on the weekends when I was in high school, is they did like a hourly base pay and commission. It was a $6 base pay and commission. And I'd never had a sales job before, but I was like, maybe if I sold like this many TVs, I can make it to $9 an hour, and minimum wage is $7.25. So I can get to $9. That's a lot better than, minimum wage. 6 months into working there, selling TVs, selling protection plans, I ended up making like at 16, like $33 an hour. So
that's pretty good at 16 years old.
It was good. I felt pretty good. So like that was like my first like sales job, and it's crazy to think that was now almost 11 years ago. So I've just at that point 16, 17, 18, I was just like in retail sales. Like it was Sears, it was Best Buy, and everywhere I went, it wouldn't take long. I would be some kind of like top in the territory, doing okay, selling stuff, making good money. So never had any intent of going in insurance. And when I went to college, I never even thought I'd go into sales or business. I was like, I know a little bit about business, know about sales. I'm going to do the grown-up thing, and I'm gonna be an eye doctor.
Yeah.
So I was like, whatever, I'm going to be an eye doctor, started working on a human physiology degree, and then became an optician. So I was like working in an eye office while I was going to college. And the only thing I was good at the eye office was selling the expensive glasses. So,
which I'm sure they appreciated.
They appreciate it. So, and that's where that's like another sales thing where people are, when you buy glasses and you have insurance, you're expecting free glasses. And I was getting people to pay like $700 on top of their insurance, for these glasses.
Oh, man.
So then I was like, you know what? I don't think this eye doctor thing is for me. I'm going to be a dentist. I think that's probably a better route.
Wow.
Looking back, not sure, the thought process.
From eyes to mouth.
Yeah. So I was doing that. And I would just say at that point, I was just lost. I was like, I have no idea what I'm going to do. And also at that time, I had been dating this girl for maybe like 9-10 months and knew her family well. And her dad was an insurance agent. And he was like, hey, you should, like in the middle of me being lost, he's like, hey, you should just give this a try. Like come in the office, meet the guys, see how it works. Just give this a try. So now we're at like my junior year. So I give it a try. And like day one, I was like, okay, this is it. This is what I'm doing. Canceled it, like anything else I was doing, left the optician job. I was like, this is what I'm doing. And then I just finished school as fast as possible. I didn't want to take any more than 4 years. Still got a human physiology degree because that was faster than like changing my major. So I finished that out as fast as possible and then started working full time at his agency once I got done with school. So, and to this day, went from working for my girlfriend's dad to now my father-in-law is who I'm working for. So
yeah,
that's kind of like the big picture over all the years. So that's how I got here. No intention, but glad I'm here. So
yeah. And maybe you said this, maybe I missed it. Are you office manager or just a team member or kind of both? Or
so I'm technically the sales manager. So we have like an office manager just for the service team. Then we have a sales manager, which is my role, running the sales team. So
wow. So you work for your father-in-law?
For the father-in-law, yeah.
Yeah. How's that going?
We get along okay. He's a very good guy, very patient guy. So
yeah, you go, man. I have had a fantastic father-in-law, man. That there's a big difference. I've heard of horror stories of father-in-laws.
Right.
So I have a 3-year-old daughter and a 17-year-old son. So I'm kind of thinking about what's the kind of father-in-law I want to be. But that's maybe another That's another topic for another podcast. So you joined a good agency. One that was already in. I know a lot of team members that do that, and they just will be like, hey, I just don't want to mess that agency up. I just want to fall in. I want to play my part. But you set out to raise the waterline there. to say, nope, we're going to do something different. So walk us through where the agency was at when you got there. And then what did you do? How did you contribute it to making it better and heading towards best? Maybe even share with us some of the obstacles that you overcame. So walk us through that whole journey of saying, I'm not going to sit here and punch a clock. I'm going to do my best to make it better, then move it towards best, maybe any obstacles.
Sure. Well, and when I first got there, is like I was an intern, and then I was full-time sales. First 3.5 years, I was just grinding as a team member, like working more than 40 hours. I was number one in like our team member Hall of Fame group, number one in we have like a group of team members who want to be agents. A lot of states have those groups. I was number one in that group. So like, and initially I was just working, grinding, making good money. But when I had the opportunity to become sales manager, my goal was I want to be a top 10 agency. So that's what I told Chad. He just laughed. Half of it was just like, is this guy serious? So I think the other half is like, maybe we could do it.
And you're saying top 10, not even just in your state. You're talking about in the country.
The entire country. Yeah, the entire country. So
in Iowa.
In Iowa, yeah. I mean, and maybe I'm wrong, but like in the last 20 plus years, I don't think there's ever been a top 10 agent from Iowa. So, I mean, if I'm wrong, like, let me know. I'd love to meet that agent.
No, but yeah, I know one of the top agents is in like Bemidji, Minnesota.
Yeah. Yeah. She's kind of a freak of nature though. So she's amazing, obviously. So yeah. But yeah, other than that, there wasn't, there hasn't really been someone from Iowa, but that's what I wanted to do. And initially the first challenge when I became sales manager is I was not a good manager. If you go from team member to selling stuff and you're like just really good at selling, that doesn't necessarily mean you're going to be a good manager. Like only a little bit of that translates over. So I had like a 6-month just figure out this new role. And, I would say the turning point was when my father-in-law was like, maybe we should put you in management classes.
Oh, wow.
So, I mean, that's like, and I was like, yeah, I will not be doing management classes. So I started just really like studying the trade, studying the good agents. Anytime there's a top agent talking, including, that agent from Bemidji, I heard her talk. I just tried to soak in everything, write down every single word. So then from there, the next challenge was like, we need people. We had hired one person right after I became sales manager. We had one existing person that was working with us that did not want me to be their manager. They also didn't really want to work. So that was interesting. And so then it was just like, how do we get people? We need to get more people, on the boat and get rolling. So I had to learn how to hire people. We had like 3 hires in a row. Like right after I first started, where like, one guy was basically knocking on our door, trying to sell magazines. We just got him to sell insurance. Another one was like a family friend of mine, family friend of Chad's, which then brought in the next issue, which was how do you get people up and running, right? Because when we would hire someone and we were so hesitant to hire someone, it would take on average like 3 years to get our money back. And that was like if they did really good.
Yeah.
So then the next challenge was like, how do we like get people up and running sooner? How do we like de-risk the decision to hire them in the first place? And then really like get our money back faster because of that.
I mean, 3 years is a wild number, but my guess is if all agents had control of their numbers like that, they'd probably find a pretty similar number, maybe even worse.
Yeah, maybe worse. But I mean, that was like Chad always said, oh yeah, 3 years at best to break even.
So if you think about it, 3 years, and most team members don't stay 3 years. So we would have to make the assumption that most agents probably only lose money on team members.
Yeah. No, it's an expensive proposition. It's very expensive.
It is. So it makes what we're talking about so important,
right?
In terms of your team. Yeah.
100%.
Sorry, I didn't interrupt you. Keep on going.
No, you're good. I think that was perfect. And yeah, because then the other thing too is like you've got to, there's different like multipliers on renewals and on your annual bonus. So if you're not also getting your team to max out all of those things, it's, again, a very expensive proposition, because we were pretty good at that in the first place. But even still then it took 3 years. So Chad and I were talking, and we basically hatched a plan of just making selling insurance without being rude or anything to anyone, but we wanted to make selling insurance as simple as humanly possible. How could we lay out every single step our team members had to do? It would work 80+% of the time, and then they wouldn't have to think as hard, be as creative, do anything, right? You'd barely even be salespeople, really. How could we get it down to a science like that?
Wow.
Because if you look at Starbucks, if you look at Amazon, if you look at the biggest companies in the world, right, they've got a strict process for everything.
Oh, yeah.
Doesn't matter what Starbucks you go to, what color the barista's hair is, the macchiato or whatever, the mocha choca tastes the same.
That's right.
So that was the new frame of thinking that we wanted to adopt. And I knew that I had decent luck selling. So the first thing I did from that point was scripted every single word I say from greeting to close. I was let's just start there. And there's been a couple versions of it, but not too many. And when we started doing that, when we'd hire someone, we could get them writing P&C, high liability limits, life, health within 30 days of hitting the phone.
30 days. Holy
30
moly.
days. Yeah, 30 days. And then we started doing the math. If we can get someone to 40, 50 apps a month, we'd make our money back plus within a year.
Unbelievable. So you're essentially creating, I mean, listen, I talk to agents every day, all day. I've not heard it broken down like this. I'm actually pretty fascinated, George. So what you're saying is that you actually created an insurance factory line. And said, we're going to automate as much as we're going to try to take the brain out. Because let's be honest, sometimes our brains mess us up.
Totally.
We think we're crafty and witty, and then we throw something in oh, why doesn't that work? Well, it's because you didn't follow the script. Right. Now, again, it's saying, hey, we're not robots, but there are some things that should be robotic.
Right.
Is because we know when you say it like this, it just works. And we know, don't say that, don't go there. Just do it like it is. And then all of a sudden now you got team members who, 30 days is wild, right? 30 days, most team members, agents I'm talking to, their team's kind of working their hot list. They'll bring in that 100 hot list and they're selling to grandma and, their ex-girlfriend from high school. And they're getting some early success because it's the people that are going to say yes no matter what you try to sell them, even if it's a Cutco knife or the latest pyramid scheme. But we're talking about they're selling to your leads. They're selling,
and we don't even let them work. We don't even let them work the new leads. They work our old scrubbed leads. All the leads we bought in the past, we filter them on the do not solicit list, and if they're as long as they're clean and good to call, that's who they call.
Yeah, boy, I love it. So you do this, you start you just script out what you're going to say top to bottom. You do sort of Steve Jobs Apple, hit it with the simple stick,
right,
which I love. And I know you're going to share some more because I'm really interested in hearing, but your agency started at the good was what, apps wise? How many apps was your
2 to 250 apps a month?
Yeah. Any agent listening would probably hey, I'll take that. Okay. And then where are you guys at now?
So last year we averaged about 600 a month.
You're talking about 300% increase.
Right around there. Yeah.
Let's go. Holy moly. Okay. I'm going to shut up. I needed our listeners to hear that. By implementing change and saying our good is not good enough, and you start to work out some things, look at where growth can happen. Now not all of you have a George, okay? But if you don't, you need to go find one. I think it would probably be pretty hard to find. But okay, George, keep on going. Okay, so you script it all out, and then what happened next? So now you've got team members in the first 30 days producing. Go from there.
So we had that going. The math was starting to work, and then now it was if I'm using your analogy, we got to plug more people into the factory line. So I wanted to hire and I wanted to just keep adding to the team. I told Chad I wanted 10 salespeople. He was like, I don't know what you were smoking this morning, but it's not going to happen. But I was going to see how close I could get, right? And or another, famous Chad line is, "You're really good at spending my money." It worked out. But in the meantime, he had to front some money. But so then it was, we got a hire, and I wanted to de-risk, our hiring decisions too, right? I didn't want to go through a bunch of people if I didn't have to. But then I was hit with another issue, which anyone hiring a couple of years ago would know this. It was a very competitive hiring environment. There was big sign-on bonuses. You could work from home. You could pet your dog. There was all of these big companies that were just blowing us out of the water when it came to benefits and just all of these like lifestyle things that they could provide that we can't. We've got benefits, 401k, health insurance,
Right.
but not what all these other companies were doing. Definitely could not do a big sign-on bonus. So I had to really rethink how we were going to get people interested and get people bought in, while also not being desperate and making good hires too.
Right.
So the first thing I got rid of in our hiring process was traditional interviews, which probably sounds crazy, but we don't sit down in person and do interviews anymore.
Wow.
Because everybody sounds the same. Maybe I'm bad at doing in-person interviews, but everybody seems to sound the same. So I was like, this is anti-progress. I don't want to be here. And I don't think they want to be here either. So what I started doing was I kind of put my team member hat on for a second, put my sales hat for a second. And I was like, okay, I got to keep these people interested, but I also have to make a better decision for myself. So I was like, here's what I'm going to do. When a new ad comes in, right? A new person comes in from Career Plug, I'm going to treat them like an internet lead.
Yeah.
I'm going to call them, get some general interest about them, right? Have them knock out the assessment same day. And then whenever they're done with their assessment, right? So call them super fast to show I'm interested, let them complete their assessment. If the scores were good, I would just call them to come in the office and shadow.
Wow.
Shadow the sales team, shadow the service team, get a vibe check, right? I'll get a vibe check on them. They get a vibe check on me and the team. And then use that to make my hiring decision as to what they think of the team, what they think of me, what did I think of them. I even do a role play with them. We practice the script on the spot in the shadow.
Wow.
And then I just use that to figure out who should work here and who should not, right?
So before you even hire them, you're getting to kind of test drive them a little bit.
We test drive everybody before we even hire them. Yeah.
Man. Is anybody ever resistant to that? They don't want to do it? I guess that's a pretty good litmus test.
Yeah.
To indicate if this is going to be a good hire or not, right? If they're apprehensive, if they are apprehensive about role play.
If someone wants a job, you can get them to do just about anything. Yeah. So that's not the part I worry about. But what I actually do is I role play twice. So we do the first role play, and I give them one thing to do better, and then we role play again. What I'm looking for is, did they listen to what I said?
Wow, great.
You'd be surprised the number of people that will not, right? And that's boom, not coachable, they're out.
Yeah. That's a great way to do it. So rather than just ask the question, are you coachable? Anybody can say anything they want to.
Right.
But you're giving them an opportunity to show right out of the gate that they're coachable.
Prove to me you're coachable, right? And I'll throw some objections at them. I want to see what's the look on their face. Do their shoulders cave in? Do they just stop, or are they going to try to do something to overcome it, right? Can they handle any type of rejection?
That's refreshing. I'm sure we've got agents listening right now. They're like, you know what? That's how I need to hire, is I need to bring them in and let them demonstrate the roles rather than ask them,
right?
What's your greatest weakness? What's your greatest strength?
Sure.
Let them demonstrate it a little bit.
100%.
Because if it's true that the ROI is 3 years, all right, or maybe even at best a year,
right,
then you got to get this right.
Yeah, you got to have a good picker for sure.
Got to be a good picker. I like that.
Yeah.
Got to be a big picker. So, I mean, obviously you had the encouragement of your agent. I know that, he was like, "You're good at spending my money," but, uh, he had to have been encouraged in encouraging you just to give you that kind of freedom,
For sure.
to charge. I would even maybe call this agent a go getter, right? So
For sure. For sure.
speak to the agent right now who's
Yeah.
saying, all right, and again, we're going to talk more about your process here in just a second, right? Because we just talked
Yeah.
about, some of the scripting and some of the hiring pieces of it, right? And we're not going to give it away a lot of it because that's what Trainwell is all about. I can't wait to introduce that tool to agents. But we're talking about a go-getter mentality. So speak to an agent right now, and how can an agent be this kind of a go-getter type of person in their agency?
Sure.
What's a mind shift that might need to change? And maybe it's not the agent that needs to be the go-getter. Maybe it's how can the agent set up their team members to be go-getters?
Sure.
That's probably a better phrase.
Sure. Yeah. So, and for this part, I'm just gonna be like passing forward all of my like Chad teachings, because he's got way more experience doing this than me,
Sure.
So if I'm passing forward, my Chad teachings, the first one would be, you got to pick someone. Like when you hire, you need someone that seems very hungry, not hungry for a job, but hungry to get better themselves. Like what problem are they trying to solve with the job? But then the other thing about Chad, not just with me, but and I've seen with every single person that's ever worked in our office, is he will exhaust every single resource for every single team member. So that way he can go to sleep at night saying, I tried.
Yeah.
Right. Sometimes, he worked with me on this. I would just went, oh, they're not good enough. I want to move on. Right. I want to fire fast, keep going. He is not like that. He wants it to be like undeniable evidence that he tried absolutely everything, every single way, didn't treat everyone this like just because one thing worked for one person, know that it's not going to work the same for every single other person. He will figure out every single scenario and try to help someone get better before saying, okay, now it's on them.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. So he's willing to sort of individualize, even though you're trying to pick the right kind of person. There's still,
right.
There's still going to be a little bit of mystery when a person comes on full time.
Right.
And then you're saying one of the things to encourage a team member to be a go-getter is to say, hey, we're going to even adapt to you a little bit, maybe adapt to your
100%.
learning style or how you best see things.
Exactly.
Because there's some diamonds in the rough.
Yeah. Well, and here's my other like favorite thing we did that like proves this point. So there's like all of these like personality tests, right? There's a one that we bought for a while that just the name isn't coming to me right now, but a lot of agents use it. And basically, it's like the different like scores, and there's like a bar chart. Are they self-sufficient? Are they an implementer? Are they whatever? And we were using it for new hires, and we also did it on every single person on our team. Well, every single person on our team, their graph looked different. And every single person on the team, Chad could justify why they were still a good fit, despite, something being good and something being bad. Right. And same thing when we'd hire someone new, we could always justify a reason to hire them. So I was like, well, we're not going to spend $60 a test because it means nothing to us, So, and so we'd rather just figure out how to make that individual person work and fit to like how we do things than try to look for a specific person too, which just widened our net and made it easier to hire. So
easy to hire. Yeah. I think back to our team here at FrontRunner. I will say some of our best team members were actually the slowest to learn and get on board. And not that they didn't care. In fact, they really wanted the job. They were fit for it. But maybe just things came a little slower. Then we needed to look at it from a different angle. I will tell you, some of our best team members were exactly that. I'm not saying the fast learners are bad, right? But what I also find is that sometimes, and I've said this in a previous podcast, sometimes the fast learners really aren't faster. They're just better at making you think they know.
Sure.
And so those people that are honest about maybe they're a little lost or a little discouraged or a little bit confused. Well, they're the ones being honest. And then now you can work with honesty, right? You can work with a team member that wants to get better, that wants to grow versus one that just makes you believe that they got it. And then you're coming back here 6 months from now, wondering why that team member's not producing because they had so much hope and promise.
No, I think that's a really good point because, it's kind of like that person's probably like, I just need more evidence so that way I have the total buy-in. And then when they have the total buy-in 6 months in, because they've got more information to work with, that's when they really take off. So, I mean, it makes total sense,
Sure. Absolutely. So you can build go-getters, the people that are okay to say, hey, we want to take good to better to best by working with them individually. Okay. So you came in and you said, hey, we're going to make this like as simple as possible to sell insurance. I use the factory analogy.
Yeah.
You then started to script it, and that's how you did it. Make it turnkey, you started to hire the right people by doing I'm really intrigued by your hiring kind of interview process. I think that's absolutely brilliant. And then what happens? Now you set them out. Okay. So is there anything else to it than that? Or you just follow that process?
There's plenty to it. So, I mean, now it just became, my role became like recruit and then train and then continue to sell stuff. Right. So then there's like the ongoing questions, right? How do I do this? What do I say about that? How do I handle this objection? And so, I mean, I was just getting pummeled with questions. The more people we'd add, the more questions I'd have. And something I noticed was 90% of the questions were the same. Yeah. And I'm just one of those people, I don't know if I'm lazy or what, but I did not like answering the same questions like more than once.
Yeah.
So I was like, I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to write, the scripting worked, right? So I'm going to just write out all the processes, everything you got to know. We're going to download it into their brain. That way, when they have a question, they can just reference the written process.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody cares what I wrote out. No one wants to look at a binder. You know what I mean?
Yeah, sure.
No. So then I was like, okay, how do I really figure this out? And obviously, a couple of years ago, AI is starting to get big and people are talking about it. So I talked to some developers and made like a custom built AI, like off of me, like it's literally called AI George.
That's awesome.
And it's trained on like all of those one-off situations. What do I say to this customer? What do I say to that? And it like pieces together from like other situations that we've trained it on, like what to do for different situations. So you don't have to like actually put in word for word what to do every time. So then like the next iteration, like now that we're at a team, like there's 8 salespeople on our team other than me. When they have questions about sales and situations and what to do, they actually talk to AI George before they talk to me. And
it's brilliant.
What to do.
And like, how often is that deterring them from taking? Because the thing is that if you have 8 salespeople all coming to you, guess what you can't do? You can't sell.
Right.
You can't do what you're really good at. So you create a tool really to enable more of your time to go sell.
100%.
So how many of these questions? So where did you see the drop in terms of how many people were coming to ask you? Was it 50%, 75%?
The safe number I would say is about 35%, like right around there, which I'll take
all day.
I mean, I always say it's like the AI George is like the team member you train once, because you just train it once. I mean, that's it. It's just like the new things. But no one wants to look at like a handbook. There's a bunch of one-off situations that you can't really train for, and that's where it just kind of fit into like all the other training we already do. It's just like, the in-between moments. Like, what do I do here? What do I say here?
Boy, that's brilliant. So you build a dashboard, kind of a dashboard online system where your team could just go in and type something in, ask George.
Yeah.
And then based on the knowledge base, it was learning and getting better and more accurate, right? Because that's what AI does. It gets better. It doesn't just regurgitate. It's not a linear thing.
Right.
So it's actually learning and getting better. And so they started to use this, which is, I guess it also just helps in training, getting team members up to speed faster.
Now they get the feedback instantly, super fast. They don't have to rely on me being there. They can 24/7. It doesn't like get a tone with them when they've asked the same question 3 times. I get, I always say mistakes are fine. The same mistakes are not. AI does not care. It's always very nice. It always,
Yeah.
it always
Even
says,
if you're mean to AI, it's gonna. But because I've tried being mean to
yeah,
Chat GPT, and
yeah,
it always responds pretty well.
yeah.
Pretty well
So
to that. That's phenomenal.
exactly.
'Cause I don't know. I'll be straight up. I don't know of any other agency in the country that has developed an AI tool to help their office. I think it's phenomenal. You're talking about 30% of inquiries are not getting to you, and something else. Maybe you've thought about it, but I know some team members that might just be maybe a little embarrassed to ask the question because they've already asked it
Oh,
3 times,
for sure. For sure.
and
Yeah.
it's just helpful to, it's just helpful to be able to sort of ask George on the AI versus asking
Yeah.
real George, who might get a little frustrated because you've asked 4 times already.
Yeah. No, when I made it, I told the team, I said, this is the end of question shame.
Oh boy, that's great. The end of question shame.
Yeah. Just have
Huge.
at it.
Oh,
And the
okay,
other thing
so
is I can't even see, like I made it anonymous too. So I don't know who asked what. And my team feels a lot better asking that way because I'm not like, I don't have to like target them specifically or anything. So
yeah, like, hey, I heard you spend half your day with AI George.
yeah, yeah, exactly. It's all
You know.
anonymous. So
So let's just go there. I know we've got agents listening, team members that are like, how can I get that? How can I get AI George? How can I get what George has? And lucky for you, not only does George do in his office, he's now gracious enough to start offering this countrywide, right? So started
yeah,
about a year ago,
yeah,
launched a company called Trainwell. Fantastic, right? And again, I'm just getting to know this tool. And I'll tell you, George, it's rare that I hear a tool that I've not heard of. Every tool that I hear is kind of an iteration of something else that I've already done. It's kind of a copy
sure.
paste. This is actually pretty unique. I've not heard this a lot. So, okay, tell us about Trainwell. How can agents, team members plug in? How'd you build it? Maybe walk us through what somebody might experience because you're taking on agencies right now. Is that accurate to help them?
Yeah. Yeah. We got like 700 agents and team members all in like 7 months from launch. So
Unbelievable.
yeah, yeah, very proud of it. But yeah, there's essentially a few things going on with Trainwell. There's what I call like the fundamental modules, which is basically like only takes 8 hours to get through. You want to break it up over time, but it'll take someone with no sales, no insurance experience, and get them writing PNC with high liability limits, life and health within 30 days of using the
Wow.
modules. That's if they have no experience. If you're an existing team member, you've been around 3 to 4 months, you'd see more financial services, higher liability limits within like 2 weeks of using it. We've had some people do it within a week of using it. So there's that. Every single Tuesday, it's Trainwell Tuesday, I do a live training, talk about a concept, role play with people live. They win money when they role play.
Unbelievable. Cool.
New modules every single month they get released. Everything's professionally produced, made for short attention spans. And then you also get AI George. So like that comes with it. It answers those one-off questions, helps you write emails, text messages. How do you respond? Hey, I just talked to someone. They told me to talk to them tomorrow because they had to talk to their spouse and they didn't show up. What could I have done differently? You throw all that in there, it's going to tell you what to do. And that's all part of it. And that's how that's been supercharging AI George getting even better and more helpful because now there's 700 people using it instead of 14,
Yeah, sure.
So
it's just getting better. It's a thing that doesn't get musty over time like a manual, right? Your manuals, if you're using manuals, they're probably okay, but they're probably musty.
Yeah, no, and no one wants to go back in and edit those and you name it. So yeah, it's a living, breathing thing, but you can talk to it conversationally. In a way, like if you use ChatGPT, same thing applies. This is just like George PT,
Sure, yeah.
So, but yeah.
God, it's phenomenal. I absolutely love what I'm hearing. I really don't geek out over a tool very often, so I'm a little geeking out here because really the podcast is about helping agents go from good to better to best, or maybe helping agents go from not good to restarting and getting good, getting better, and then moving towards their best. So an agent can sign up with Trainwell. That includes all their team members, right?
Yeah,
And
so you can. There's two main packages. There's one package that you can have 3 team members on for a little bit more money. You can have unlimited team members on it. You can do it month to month. So there's no commitment. There's even like a guarantee. So if you use TrainWell for 2 months and don't see at least a 50% increase in life and health production, I'll actually work with you personally until you do.
Oh, no. Wow.
And 50% is a safe number.
Yeah.
And if that's not good enough, you can also try it for free. Like you can literally sign up, no money required, and try it for free before you make your decision and buy.
I don't know how anybody wouldn't do that. That's how we get all of our agents at Front Runner. We say, try it for free. Like who's going to say no to that?
You'd be surprised.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, but I mean, I would probably assume that TrainWell's like Front Runner. I mean, very rarely do people not say this is not helping my agency, and then they implement it.
It's been good so far.
Yeah, for sure. Man, this is an exciting tool. Hey, listen, you need to head over to his website. It's on the screen if you're watching it on YouTube. It's trainwell.co. Don't do trainwell.com. Trainwell.co. That's trainwell, WELL.co. You can find out about the packages. Listen, I'm going to tell you something, agents. You need to go give this a try. George, I'll tell you, man, one of the things I'm just struck by, honestly, is your humility. I love it. I talk to a lot of people. There's people that are arrogant. Heck, ask my wife, I'm probably arrogant. But really, you're an unassuming dude who's got a great product, who's led your agency to the top. In fact, and probably in the top 10 in the country, and maybe heading even higher. And here's the reality. It doesn't sound like secret sauce. It just sounds like a really well thought out process. Hit it with the simple stick. Quit being so complex, agents. Get simple. Quit trying the latest endeavor, the latest move, right? Just be very simple and hire great team members, train them, encourage them, be on their team, and then get them some great resources like TrainWell. If you want to go from good to better to best. I mean, just you being willing to say, hey, if you don't see a 50% increase, I'm going to work with your team personally. I come on. There's no reason to say no to that. Okay. Hey, I want to wrap this up, but because I know George is a busy guy. George, man, I'm so grateful you came and spent some time with us. I know we just scratched the surface into the story of your agency and to the story of TrainWell. I'm going to leave that up to people to investigate because it's worth your time to investigate. But do me a favor, speak to the team member right now that's listening. They feel unmotivated, complacent, maybe a little bored. Maybe they got that Indeed activated. they're on Indeed. Where should they start? Where should they start from going to good or maybe even bad to better and hopefully best? So just speak to that team member who's just discouraged right now.
Sure. I would say I'm going to get more detail with this too, but like the first way I think about it is like, do not think like a team member. Don't think like an employee, think like a business owner, think like you're, even if it's a one-person agency, you are a one-person agency.
Yep. And
with that, don't stop at 40 hours, work really hard, create undeniable evidence of what you can do. Never ask for a base pay raise ever.
Oh, wow.
Never do that.
Speak to that. I don't want to interrupt you, but speak to that. I've never heard anybody say that. Why?
Because first of all, agents don't have any base pay, right? So, and if you're saying, I want more base, you're saying, I want a little bit more of a guarantee, which also means a little bit more of a guarantee I don't have to do as much to make more money.
Wow.
It sends like the total wrong message.
Mm-hmm.
So if you want to make more money, one, work more, sell more stuff, but two, figure out what your agent's goals are. Do they want to be top 10? Do they want to hit a certain level of income? Do they want to hit a certain travel level? And then just ask for a percent of getting them there. That's how you get more money. It's not guaranteed to either party, but if you hit X goal, right, you add 10% to whatever, you should get 2 to 3% of that. That's how you get more money. But only do that after you've proven you can do it through 2 years of crushing it, working more than 40 hours, making more money for yourself, having a good process. Then if you want to make more money, ask for what the goals are and a percent of getting to the goals.
Oh,
no base pay.
That's fun. I've never heard that before. This has been like a whole podcast of things I've never heard of, which means I've picked the right guest here. but don't ask for a base raise. It's just a sure sign that you're not confident in what you're doing. It's a sure sign that you don't want to work as hard, which people are like, I'm doing great. I should, no, ask me for a percentage of, of something more. Like, so when the boat rises, ask for a little more rise. Don't ask for your boat to rise when nobody else is rising.
Right.
Man, phenomenal. All right. Well, hey, we're going to wrap this podcast up. George, I know you're busy. I know you got to get back to taking care of your team, leading a growing company, Trainwell. Again, trainwell.co. If you're listening, that's .co. Don't go to .com. You won't get there. .co. Georgia, any final words for us about going from good to better to best? Anything else for our listeners today?
Yeah, I mean, one thing we've always done the whole time, despite, feeling good for a little bit about, our rank and where we're at, is we're always looking at people doing more than us. Never look at people doing less and going, oh, at least we're not there. We're always going, who's doing more and how are they doing that? That's always the question in our mind. So Chatty and I.
That's right. That's right. How you doing best? And you can even see that if you jump on FrontRunner. Is it okay if I say that your agency uses FrontRunner?
We use FrontRunner. We love FrontRunner, and we look at what other agents are doing. How did they do 100 life that month?
Yeah.
We want to figure. We'll even reach out to people because we saw them on FrontRunner.
FrontRunner.
I'm not getting paid to say that or anything, but we use FrontRunner, and that's why we like the leaderboards too. So
that's right.
Our team members look at the leaderboards. Hey, why is that team member over there? Why are they doing more life and health than you?
That's right. That was my fishing for a compliment statement. So you came right in. I appreciate that. My shameless plug, because even though we don't talk about FrontRunner a lot on the To the Front podcast, it is the producer, it is the owner of the podcast, and we're grateful for them because it's helping agencies. I'm gonna tell you something. I think what you could have FrontRunner and Trainwell, and your agency could be right on its way from good to getting better to best. George, thanks again. Really, really grateful for you coming on today.
I'm happy to be here again. Thank you.
All right, buddy. I'm going to let you get back. And that's going to be a wrap for episode number 19 of To the Front. You want to earmark this one. You want to listen to it again if you need motivation for your day. I'm totally motivated. Again, go check out my friend George at Trainwell, trainwell.co. Listen, go look at the prices. It's really affordable. And how can you beat a guarantee that if you're not growing, then he's going to come in and help? How can you beat that? So give that a try, and make sure to tune in next episode number 20. It's going to be a solo episode. I'm going to share something that I started doing 8 months ago that has made a difference in my life as not only an entrepreneur, as a business leader, as a husband, as a dad. Something I started doing 8 months ago that was not my idea. In fact, I saw other entrepreneurs, leaders, business coaches doing it, and it changed everything. And so I'm excited to share with you episode number 20, where I give you my biggest life hack as a leader. So until then, grateful for you. Go lead your agency with courage. It's worth it. Why? Because when your boat rises, when your agency, when your business's boat rises, you can help other people rise. And you can leave something in this world after you're gone that will outlast money and everything else that you've ever going for personally. Again, until next time, thanks again.